All right. Again, good evening, all, and thank you for joining us for ANC3C's January 2026 public meeting. We will get started with the establishment of a quorum. So 3C01,
Present.
3C02,
Present.
3C03 is myself, and I am present. 3C04,
Present.
3C06.
Present.
3C07,
I'm here.
3C08,
Present.
and 3C05.
I'm here.
All right, we've established a quorum. And with that, I'd like to introduce our newest commissioner who was just sworn in. Is it January 2nd?
Yes.
Peter Miles, representing 3C05 and filling that vacancy. So welcome to 3C. And if you want to give a brief introduction, that would be super. And this is the time to do it.
Great. Hi, everyone. I'm Peter Miles, representing 3C05. I live over on Porter Street Northwest. Excited to represent the SMD. Back when I got signatures, I got to meet a lot of people. I'm looking forward to meeting more. My email is up and running. So if you want to meet, grab coffee, share your thoughts about the single member district, send me an email. It's the 3C05 address at anc.dc.gov.
Correct.
Right? So feel free to reach out. I'm looking forward to meeting people.
Super. Thank you. And thank you for your willingness to serve in this role. I will move on to the next item of the agenda, which is the verification of notice, and I will verify that notice was sent via various listservs, our newsletter, and the ANC3C website. We'll now move on to the approval of the agenda and the items on the consent calendar. I have a few changes to make to the agenda. Starting with the consent calendar, we're going to strike the approval of the December 2025 meeting minutes because we haven't seen them to review them. And then I'm going to add the QFR quarterly financial report review and vote to the treasurer's report portion of the meeting, which is in the second commission business section of this evening's meeting. Is everybody okay with those two items?
Yes.
I'm good. Yeah. And thank you, Commissioner Pagets, for striking the meeting minutes from December from tonight's consent calendar. I'll have them prepared for approval next month.
Super.
I'm fine with those modifications.
Okay, and then I have one more. I would like to propose we move the announcements portion of the agenda and the community forum portion of the agenda to after the second commission business portion of the agenda. That includes like the 4 items for discussion and vote in the commission business that I think we're going to spend most of our time on this evening. Is everyone okay if we move the announcements and community forum to so we have all of the commission business in one section and then end with that? Is there anyone in opposition to doing that? Okay, hearing no one opposed, we will make that change to the agenda. So is everyone in approval of the agenda as amended, including the item on the consent calendar, which is the resolution regarding the 2026 Rock and Roll DC Half Marathon and 5K that would be approved with the approval of the amended agenda and the consent calendar? All those in favor, raise your hand or say aye. All right, I see all 8 hands up. So we will move forward with the agenda and that resolution being approved. All right, as the first item on our commission business every January is the election of officers. So we will begin with that with nominations for chair. Commissioner Littauer.
I'd like to nominate Commissioner Pagets, yourself, to be chair of ANC3C.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
All right, I am willing and able to continue the role of chair. Are there any other nominations for chair? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor of Commissioner Pagets in the role of chair, raise your hand or say aye. Commissioner Nash, okay, thank you, Commissioner Nash. And all the others, so that was 8-0. I will continue to serve in the role of chair. We'll move on to nominations for vice chair. Is there a nomination for vice chair? I will nominate Commissioner Prinzo for vice chair.
I'll
Is there
second.
a second? Commissioner Prinzo, are you willing and able to serve in the position of vice chair?
I am.
All right, are there any other nominations for vice chair? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor of Commissioner Prinzo continuing to serve as vice chair of 3C, raise your hand or say aye. All right, I see all hands are up in favor, so that's 8-0. Thank you, Commissioner Prinzo. We will now move on to nominations for secretary. Are there any nominations for secretary?
I'll nominate Commissioner Littauer.
All right, is there a second?
Second.
All right, Commissioner Littauer, are you willing and able to serve in the role of secretary?
I am.
All right, are there any other nominations for secretary? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor of Commissioner Littauer in the role of secretary, raise your hand or say aye. All right, seeing all 8 hands up, that passes 8-0. Thank you, Commissioner Littauer. All right, for the favorite role of treasurer, are there any nominations
I
for
would
treasurer?
like to nominate Commissioner Kripke, and I am sorry for that nomination for the second year in a row.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, Commissioner Kripke, are you willing and able to serve in the role of treasurer?
Yes.
All right, are there any other nominations for treasurer?
Peter, this
All
is your chance.
Maybe next year.
all those in favor of Commissioner Kripke serving in the role of treasurer, raise your hand or say aye. All right, I see all 8 hands are up. That's 8-0. So Commissioner Kripke, thank you again for continuing on your solid work in the role of treasurer. All right, thank you for that. Next, we will move on to the consideration of the 2026 January 2027 meeting calendar. We've proposed, so the ANC has historically and typically met on the 3rd Monday of the month if it's not on a holiday, in which we would shift it usually to that Tuesday. Commissioner Prinzo, did you want to read off these dates, or are you
I
wanting to do?
can. I would like to move that we meet on Tuesday, February 17th at 7. Just a sidebar, Monday is President's Day. Monday, March 16th at 7. Monday, April 20th, 2026 at 6:30. We are aiming for that meeting to be hybrid. Monday, May 18th, Monday, June 15th, Monday, July 20th, Tuesday, September 22nd. Monday is Yom Kippur. So that Tuesday, the 22nd, we will also meet at 6:30, and that will be a hybrid meeting. Monday, October 19th, Monday, November 16th, Monday, December 14th, which is adjusted for a holiday week, and Tuesday, January 19th. Monday, the 18th is Martin Luther King Jr. Day, so I will move those days.
Second. So just for clarification's sake, the April meeting and the September meeting will be the only ones that will start at 6:30 p.m. because we are aiming to have those be a hybrid meeting. And if we meet at the library closes at 8 p.m. So with the exception of those, the start time would be at 7 p.m. and via Zoom, just for clarification and a summary. Discussion, commissioners? Any? All right, hearing and seeing none. All those in favor of the dates and the times and the formats as discussed, raise your hand or say aye. All right, I see all 8 hands are up. So that passes 8-0. All right, moving on to our next kind of administrative commission business here. we have the consideration of the chairs slash co-chairs and standing meeting date schedule of existing standing committees. Commissioner Prinzo.
Okay, I'm going to talk a lot and move it in block. We have Transparency and Public Processes Committee. I'd like to move myself. Actually, Commissioner Paget, should I move this in block for each committee, or should I just read it all and we vote it all at one time?
I think, yes, do it per committee, and then we'll move it in block and vote on it all at one time, unless
Okay.
somebody has a correction. We'll open it up for discussion or clarification and correction before we vote, obviously.
So read one committee and then we vote, or just vote at the end?
Just vote at the end.
Okay, Transparency and Public Processes, which would meet as needed. I would like to nominate myself as chair. There are no committee members for that committee. Safe, Sustainable, and Equitable Transportation, which would meet on the second Wednesday at 7 p.m. I would like to move myself and Commissioner Beard as co-chairs, and community members Kay Garcia, Mac Hyde, and Warren Gorlick. For Community Engagement and Grants, which will meet on the last Tuesday of the month at 6:30, I'd like to move Commissioners Kripke and Littauer as co-chairs. Planning, Zoning, Housing, and Economic Development, which will meet on the first Monday at 6:30. I'd like to move myself, Commissioner Pagetts, and Commissioner Bose as co-chairs, and community members Jacob Bowden Clark, Kathy Gibbons, Bob Ward, Mac Hyde, John Goodman, and Glenn Kellogg. The Residential Historic Preservation Review Committee, which will meet on the second Monday at 7. I'd like to move Commissioner Nash and Commissioner Kripke as co-chairs. Environmental Justice, which meets on the second Tuesday at 6:30. I'd like to move Commissioner Kripke as chair, Laura Moore and Heather Gross as community members. And for Public Safety, which would meet on the second Thursday at 7, I'd like to move myself and Commissioner Nash as co-chairs, and Courtney Tolbert, Elizabeth Frenzy, and Mitchell Klein as community members.
Second. And all of these meetings will be held virtually for now. That can change as they're called. Additionally, we're going to schedule all of these meetings as tentative. So if there's no agenda item that month, we'll just disappear it from our calendar and announce that it was, not needing to be held. But we're going to put all of these dates of all of these committee meetings on our website so that if you do have business you want to take in front of those committees, the community will know when those meetings are happening. So that was just a note on that. Any other commissioners have discussion at this time on this matter?
Commissioner Kripke has his hand raised.
Oh, sorry. Okay, I was just kidding. Hand raised. Likes to keep us on our toes, though. Okay, so
Wait, Commissioner Kripke, did you need to talk, or was that old? Sorry.
Sorry, it was a residue.
Sorry.
Thank you. And thank you, Commissioner Frinzo, for reading that off. So this vote is on the approval of the chairs, co-chairs, committee members, and standing meeting date schedule of the standing committees. All those in favor of the items as read by Commissioner Prinzo, please raise your hand or say aye. All right, that's 8-0. That is approved. Very good. So that was the super fun part of the meeting. Okay, so now we're going to move on to our next item on the agenda, which is the discussion and the vote on a resolution regarding an application for the closing of a public alley in Square 2068. The proposed alley closing will facilitate the consolidation of the applicant's property and provide for the development of a 3-story residential building. I'm going to go ahead and put the draft resolution that we will be discussing and the plans in the chat while Commissioner Bose does the introduction of the project and the resolution.
Yeah, thank you, Chair Pagets. So for folks who've been coming to these meetings for a little while, this project should look somewhat familiar. This has been working its way through the process for a couple of years now. First came to the ANC in summer 2024. And we actually voted to support this alley closure last March. The decision is currently with council on whether to close off the alley to facilitate the construction of the residential building. A couple of things have happened since we voted on this last March, which I want to touch on very quickly. This came to a hearing at council back in October, uh, where they had a preliminary discussion with Chair Mendelson and Councilmember Fruman to discuss this proposal. At that hearing, a group of neighbors who live close to the alley testified to say that they didn't feel adequately included in the process. They didn't feel like they'd been consulted and didn't feel like they'd been included in the discussion. I took that feedback to heart, and over the last few weeks, a couple of months since that hearing, I've had a lot of conversations with the neighbors to try and get a better sense of their concerns. There have been individual discussions, group conversations, a couple with Councilmember Fruman and Commissioner Pagets. So thank you to Commissioner Pagets for joining those. Really trying to get a sense of kind of what neighbors' concerns were about this project. And what I heard over and over were a couple of common themes. First, there was a lot of concern about structural damage stemming from any potential construction. There were questions of what would happen logistically with regards to parking, trash, loading and unloading for the commercial properties. A couple people referenced, the need to get to their driveways and parking structures. And so that was a couple of buckets of issues. And then finally, there was an overarching desire to make sure that the proposed massing that Commissioner Pagets just shared in the chat that we've been looking at for a little while now is ultimately what we end up with. I think there has been a lot of apprehension among the nearby neighbors that, the alley's going to get closed, council's going to allow this to go forward. And then the plan that we end up with is something drastically different from what we've been looking at this whole time. So the resolution is really an effort to kind of capture some of those concerns. I realize that this doesn't address every single issue that's been raised by every single neighbor, but these are the kind of common threads and the ones that I've been hearing about really over and over in every single one of these discussions that I have. And it essentially recommends to council that we continue to support the project and that council allow the project to move forward, but with a few binding conditions that, should go at least part of the way to addressing some of the main concerns that have been raised. So the whereas clauses kind of address what I've just discussed, and I'll go ahead and read the resolve clauses. So if I can find my notes, there we go. So therefore be it resolved that ANC3C continues to support the proposal to close the public alley on lot 2068 in order to allow Martin Diamond's proposed building project to proceed, but recommends council make its approval contingent on certain conditions, which be made binding to the extent possible. First, we recommend council seek a commitment that the final building massing not differ substantially from what was presented to neighbors in December 2025. Second, we recommend council seek a commitment from Martin Diamond that the company purchase a building insurance policy, which would provide financial compensation to affected neighbors in the case of damage stemming from construction. Third, we recommend council only support the project if Martin Diamond follows through on its plans to develop the alley. We recommend that future support for this development be rescinded should another developer buy the property from Martin Diamond before the project is completed. Be it further resolved, ANC3C commits to negotiating a construction management agreement with Martin Diamond at the appropriate point in the process in close consultation with nearby neighbors, laying out legally binding conditions under which construction must take place, as well as a clear operational plan for the alley throughout the construction process, including provisions for parking, trash collection, traffic, and loading for commercial properties. Be it further resolved, ANC3C commits to sharing regular project updates with affected neighbors and maintaining clear lines of communication with neighbors throughout the construction process. Be it further resolved, ANC3C authorizes the chair and the commissioners for 3C06 and or their approved designees to represent the commission in this matter. And finally, be it further resolved that consistent with DC Code 1-309, only actions of the full commission voting in a properly noticed public meeting have standing and carry great weight. The actions, positions, and opinions of individual commissioners, insofar as they may be contradictory to or otherwise inconsistent with the expressed position of the full commission, have no standing and cannot be considered as in any way associated with the commission. So with that, thank you everybody for coming to my monologue, and I will open it up for discussion.
Well, you're going to make a motion to move the resolution.
Yeah, exactly. I'm going to make a resolution to move the resolution.
The
Or
motion.
make a motion. Thank you.
Okay.
Second.
There's a second. Okay. So here's the way that we're going to run this. Councilmember Fruman has joined us since he's the main character in why this has come before this commission so many times. We're going to let him speak first. Then we're going to go to commissioners for discussion. And then we're going to open it up to the community for discussion. So Councilmember Fruman, welcome. And if you want to come off mute.
Sure. Thank you very much. Nice to see everybody. Nice to see you, Peter. I feel like it's weeks since I swear you in. Welcome. So where we are, I jumped in and right before Jay started talking about the resolution, I hope I had given a heads up that I thought I wouldn't get here until close to 7:30. We put forward legislation last year to close the alley, and then we had a hearing on that legislation and got feedback, including from Chairman Mendelson. I think where we are is close, and I think the resolution that you all are about to consider is a very constructive one. I need to work. So we did the hearing. Maybe I'll step back even further. So I met with Martin Diamond, Chris Martin, a while ago and said, I want to see more housing on Connecticut Avenue. Like, I support this idea. We need to work it through, and we'll put through the legislation. We put forward the legislation. At some point, the neighbors reached out to me and they had concerns. And I told the neighbors, I want to see this happen, but I also want to be sure that we address your concerns to the extent that they can be addressed. We've had something of a process where we've been meeting with the neighbors, and Jay and Janelle, you participated, and Martin Diamond, try to figure out what are the key issues and how do we get from here to there. I do think that we are quite close. I think now, at the hearing, Chairman Mendelson expressed some skepticism about wanting more clarity about what this was before moving forward. Because the way it works is you have a hearing on a bill and then you do a markup on the bill. And the hearing was in the committee of the whole, and the markup will be in the committee of the whole. And so one of the concerns that neighbors had, some concerns, massing, which it was not clear that there was a serious objection on massing, but there were concerns about it. I think has changed some, maybe in part in response to the concerns raised, but also because of the complexity of the construction that led to a pedestal approach as opposed to an underground garage. That actually, for whatever reason, that decision was made. It helped in terms of receptivity of the neighbors. But a different set of concerns related to what's going to happen. Will there be damage to the homes of the nearby neighbors if this construction went forward? I think again the change to the pedestal approach as opposed to the underground garage helped ameliorate that. And you have in your resolution a requirement of building insurance as a way of protecting and Chris Martin at the last meeting that we had talked about a process where a third party comes and takes pictures of the houses before and then takes pictures of the houses after, and he provides a way to pin down if there was anything adverse that happened, how it would be dealt with. That's not an uncommon thing, but it's good that it is being built in here. I still need to meet with the neighbors. Again, I think they've asked to talk to me a while ago, and I expect to. But the final big thing, other than something that comes out of that other process, was concern about a bait and switch. And that's a little loaded, but the idea is that somehow approval would happen based on one idea, and then something very different would happen later. And again, I think that your resolution, thank you. I think your resolution calls for uh, a mechanism to protect against that happening. It, it calls for a mechanism. It doesn't specify a mechanism, and we need to figure out what that mechanism is. I need to work with Chairman Mendelson and his team to hammer out what that mechanism would look like. But in principle, I think everybody's talking about the same thing. And so I think that we are very, very close, and looking forward to meeting one more time with the neighbors to talk with them about things that are on their minds, and then moving to trying to get this legislation marked up and in front of the council for a vote. So that's where I think we are. Want to thank everybody involved, and Jay maybe in particular for the role that he's played in doing outreach in the last couple of months, and we'll get there.
Super. Thank you. So we're going to open it up again for commissioner discussion first, and then move to the community. So Commissioner Prinzo.
Thank you, Commissioner Pagets. I just want to thank Commissioner Bose and Commissioner Pagets for their work on this resolution. I know it has not been easy meeting with all of the neighbors and trying to address all of their complaints. I do think the resolution in its current form is quite good, but I know how hard it is to put in the work on a project like this from my time dealing with the wardman. So I just wanted to give my appreciation to the both of you for putting in a lot of time on this.
Thank you.
I put in way less time than Commissioner Bose did, for the record. I think Commissioner Bose, it's okay with you. I think maybe we move or I suggest those friendly amendments now, if you're amenable to that.
Yeah, that's fine with me, Commissioner Pagets. Do you want to talk through the amendments?
Sure. We, over the past 2 years that we've been having this project come before us, there's been significant support in the larger neighbors community, Ward 3 writ large, for more housing. We saw this with the support and the council's vote on the amendments to the comp plan back in 2021. We saw this most recently with the engagement that folks had with the zoning commission case 2509, the upzoning of Connecticut Avenue in Woodley Park and Cleveland Park specifically. We have consistently seen upwards of 75% of folks in support in large numbers. And we did receive this week several emails in support of this project as well, since it appeared back on the agenda. And I just wanted to propose a couple of friendly whereases to add to the resolution to reflect the larger community's input on this project. I think it's important that they have a say as well. And then one resolve. So the whereases, and I'm proposing these as friendly, Whereas ANC3C has seen new build housing projects both significantly reduced in size and prolonged in delivery due to excessive community reviews / input processes, including the Macklin project on Connecticut Avenue and Macomb Street. Whereas ANC3C notes that prolonged, undefined, indefinite reviews and public input processes that go beyond the requirements laid out in DC code introduces additional risk and delays to new housing projects. So those are the two whereases. And then the therefore would go directly after the 3 bullet pointed conditions. And that reads, be it further resolved, ANC3C requests that should a project on this property be made feasible without the closure of the alley on lot 2068 via changes to zoning or other policy, no conditions be applied to that project outside of those already required by the Code of the District of Columbia. I just want to note that, like, I think there's trepidation of spot zoning potentially happening with council proposing conditions on random properties throughout the district for reasons. And that spot zoning is not legal. So I think there's a little bit of a, I don't think there's those conditions would be legally enforceable if the alley wasn't having to be closed to make a project feasible. And I think that is fair to not tie future property owners to previous negotiations if they don't need the same relief. All right, so I'm proposing those as friendly. Commissioner Bose, you can accept them as friendly, or we can put them out for discussion for other commissioners, or the commission can vote on them.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner Pagets. I do appreciate the the sentiment, and especially in the whereases, that as these processes get more drawn out, it does introduce an additional financial cost to these projects and can often make them less viable. I think we saw that in the Macklin. So I do appreciate the sentiment. I think I'd rather get discussion from the other commissioners before accepting those.
Okay, other commissioners, and your discussion can be on the amendments or generally. Commissioner Miles, you had your hand up first, then
Thank you.
Commissioner.
Yeah. I want to thank Commissioner Bose and Pagets for all the work and outreach on this, because it is a lot. I wanted to add, I think it's really important to be clear that in addition to the resolution before us and going to the council, any project still has to follow all DC laws and regulations for construction, right? You still need building permits, DOEE permits, agency review by utilities. Like, there's extensive review that's already built in to DC law here. And that law covers insurance requirements for contractors and developers. So, I think just as with concern about spot zoning, I think that it's important that we realize that there are things that are already covered under DC law, and we don't need to duplicate that effort. And I think to Commissioner Bose's point about how this can extend timeline, I think it's very important that just because something isn't in a resolution or discussed, that it doesn't mean that it's not covered by DC law and things that still would have to happen before any building or shovels hit the ground. And I think the resolution, I think it strikes a very careful balance between respecting the private property rights of the developer and reasonable concerns of neighbors. And I say reasonable because I think it's circumstances where individuals can abridge the rights of others, and private property rights of others should be limited and very carefully circumscribed. Obviously you can start to set dangerous precedent where anyone who has a concern thinks or may think that means that that concern needs to be addressed by their opinion just being followed.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Nash.
Thanks very much. And, first, I also want to commend Jay Bose for the work that he has done on this, and meeting with neighbors a number of times, meeting with Councilmember Fruman and others. And I know that is appreciated. I do have some comments on the so-called friendly amendments, and I do have a substantive question as well. And I'll state them quickly, but I'm hoping that we can get to, some of the substantive discussion, particularly because I know there are community members here. And then if there are wordsmithing issues on the resolution, the commission can return to that later. But I actually have an issue with the two first friendly whereas clauses, because what we heard, and as Commissioner Bose said, when this commission looked at the alley closure, it seemed to be a more straightforward issue. And since then, a number of community members came forward and they felt that they weren't heard in the process. And given that's been said very clearly, and the commissioner has heard that, I think that was the case. And so I think that a whereas clause that refers to this as a prolonged, undefined, indefinite review process, I think the process is working as it should, together with Councilmember Fruman and Chair Mendelson and so forth. And, there are kind of two main issues here, and I get that they're related, but it's also important to view them separately. One, of course, there is the development proposal for this site. But the other is the public alley closure. And a public alley closure, it's a significant thing. It's essentially closing a public asset, and there is a process that should be followed. And there are agencies that weigh in, impacts are considered. So they're both very separate. And I think it does a disservice to the community and to the process to suggest that this has been prolonged and undefined. So I don't think the friendly whereas clauses are appropriate. I think they should come out. I have less of an issue with the resolve clause, but I would suggest maybe a wording change here to address what our new colleague Commissioner Miles has noted, that instead of wording that says conditions other than those required by the District of Columbia, why not simply say conditions that relate to the closing of the alley? And then I have as well a issue with the last clause of the resolution. And we can either address that now or later after we hear from neighbors. Before I do, I'll just set out my substantive question, and maybe I think the applicant is here. When we get to community discussion, the applicant can address this and maybe hear from the community. As I understand it at this point now, given the size of the project, the alley is being closed really for legal reasons, not for physical or practical reasons. That's what I've heard. And if that is true, were the alley, while legally closed so that it creates a legal condition that allows the project to move forward, but still vehicles could traverse the alley, would it not be appropriate then that also be a condition of the council approval, that the applicant would provide an easement so that reasonable use can be made of the alley that, while legally closed, is not physically closed? And then I'll just refer quickly then to my final concern on the further resolve clause. This is inappropriate, and frankly, it's a complete misuse of the term of legal standing, which generally refers to the ability of a party to sue or participate in a contested case. It's self-evident that under DC Code 1309, only the action of the commission in a duly noticed meeting with a quorum and a majority is entitled to great weight. But this clause goes beyond that and not only misuses and confuses the concept of standing, but it states that the express position of another commissioner on this related topic cannot be considered as in any way associated with a commission. And that's just legally not so. It's not entitled to great weight, but a duly elected commissioner here, if Commissioner Miles has a view and wants to express that, based on his understanding of the views of the constituents he represents, that's certainly entitled to be heard into consideration, although it's not given great weight. So I think the last clause should be struck.
Okay, I'll start with your addressing your last clause situation first there. We actually have had commissioners in the past go to meetings and represent what they were saying, which was in direct opposition to what the commission had already voted on, and not correct that board and agency to say that they were representing their views as a single member district commissioner and not the views of the ANC, causing chaos in that case because they were caught doing that. And it was by like omission of the facts, not really intentionally. So that's just a reminder of like, you can't do that. You have to be clear that you're representing the views of your single member district and not the views of the ANC as a whole. On your first issue regarding the whereas that discusses the undefined indefinite processes, the code of the District of Columbia that is relevant to street and alley closures is 9-202. And within that, the code makes references only to lots abutting and abutting property owners. And there's a zoning administrator interpretation for the meaning of abut. The term is not defined in zoning regulations. However, 11 DC MRB-100.1 parentheses G prescribes the meanings given in Webster's Unabridged Dictionary for terms not defined, and Webster's defines abut as to touch along or border with the projecting part, to terminate at a point of contact, to lean for support. Therefore, based on this definition, there has to be some form of contact when something abuts. None of the properties abut the proposed alley closing lines. They do abut an alley, but not the actual alley to be closed. So I left that whereas out, but that's what was driving kind of where we're taking an interpretation and not looking at the code that specifically says abutting properties, abutting property owners, and saying like anyone up and down the street is a nearby neighbor, which accurate, but is not what the code dictates in this process. And that's what that is meaning to point out there. So that's clarification there. Commissioner Bose, do you have comments on the other things? Because now that was long.
Yeah, thanks for jumping in, Commissioner Pagets. Commissioner Nash, I think there are a couple other points that you raised. I think one related to, the physical versus legal nature of the alley closure. You do have it right that at this point, what's on the table is a physical or is a legal closure of the alley. Essentially just a transfer of legal control, not a physical change to the alley right of way. So, the point about vehicles and trash, etc. I mean, I tried to capture that in the point about, the construction management agreement and laying out an operational plan for the alley, including things like parking, trash collection, loading. But, the fact is that the physical nature of the alley is not going to change from what it is today. So I don't know if that addresses the point that you were raising.
Well, I mean, if I could just respond quickly, to some extent, but really not completely. A construction management plan, by definition, just refers to the construction. Again, while I'm not a zoning attorney or a land use attorney, I do think that the easiest, most straightforward way to address that, to reduce impacts, particularly on abutting property owners, is that the property owner, you know, create an easement on the property that would allow reasonable access by garbage trucks, delivery trucks, whatever vehicles today, you know, use in that alley and service those properties. And in that way, the project can be built, but impacts particularly on, you know, surrounding uh, property owners, businesses are minimized.
Commissioner Nash,
And you know,
I think
can I just finish? Can I just
well, I
finish?
was
In
gonna
that
say
way,
that
and
maybe you should let the owner answer this question better than.
well, that's what I suggested. But in any event, that would be the way that, you know, access could be preserved, but subject to the rights of the property owner.
For the record, I don't think the property owner is actually on the call today. Um,
Oh.
but would you, Commissioner Nash, would you like to propose that as an amendment? I don't know the process, Commissioner Baggett.
Sure. Do you
Hold
want
on,
me to
hold
put
on,
something
hold
in
on, hold on,
you
hold
know?
on. Commissioner Nash can't. I don't think Commissioner Bose accepted your friendly amendments.
No, he hasn't yet, and
So
we can.
those are still on the table.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Um.
until that's resolved, Commissioner Nash can't propose another amendment.
Well, and also I would suggest that we, you know, I wish the applicant were on, but you know, I would want to hear from the community on that point, whether this is important to them.
Well, we've heard so there's no trash or alley access that's on this portion that's being closed. It's all existing and just revised on the west side of the building. In the other alley, this again is surrounded by four alleys. So it's only one portion that's the owner of both of the adjacent properties doesn't use. So there's no current use of it, I guess is what he would answer because we've heard this presentation 1,000 times now. And then the other thing to note is that this alley was given as a dedication to the city. The city does not own this alley. We are not giving. The District of Columbia does not own this property. There's no transfer of ownership. It's by dedication / easement of the space. So that's clear. Commissioner Beard.
Thanks, Commissioner Peggets. I just want to say thank you to Commissioner Bose for all the hard work that he's been doing on this and really appreciate that. I just want to add to this conversation what it's kind of looking like behind the scenes at the moment. So I was going through my email, and I have never gotten so many emails in favor of moving forward with something. I've seen many, many emails in support of this project in the past week or so. And I see that Joshua Peacock is on the call, so I don't want to steal your thunder, but I do want to read something that you said in your email, which is allowing a few naysayers to veto any and all changes to a neighborhood is why our city is getting more expensive, and stopping this project will only encourage others to do the same. ANC3C has already unanimously supported this project, and it is time to let neighborhoods not be controlled by a small number of people who oppose anything and everything. And I would also like to add that during the time that I was running around getting signatures to get on the ballot, I would introduce myself and I would say that I'm interested in running. And without skipping a beat, people would often say, "Can you please stop small groups of people from not letting us make progress in Ward 3C or Commission 3C?" It happened over and over again, and I didn't even ask anyone about it. So I do believe there is a kind of quiet majority in our commission who is very much in favor of moving forward with these projects, who are getting tired of long drawn out processes, who are getting tired of a very small group of people stonewalling us making progress, especially with housing. And another good example of this is bike lanes on Connecticut Avenue. People are very disappointed. That was something else that I heard a lot from people when I was getting signatures. So I just want to kind of, let people know what's going on behind the scenes, how people feel about this. And I think that um, what I've noticed is that it is a very, very small group of people who are often seem like um, they're opposed to things when the vast majority of residents are in favor. So thank you.
Thank you. Any other commissioners have anything to say at this point? Commissioner Kripke.
Just a note to thank Commissioner Bose for his work here. I know it's been involved a lot of engagement with the property owner and with neighbors and trying to navigate this situation. And we really do want, we really do need to build new housing in our community, and it's really hard to do. And so you're doing good work to try to make it feasible to build some new housing in our community on a parking lot that is underutilized and it would be a great location for some new housing. So I really appreciate the work you're doing. I generally support the development and the resolution here. That you're doing exactly what an ANC commissioner should do, which is to try to bring neighbors together to come to a solution. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
All right, Commissioner Littauer, you're the only one who hasn't spoken, and I'd like to give you the opportunity before we go to, but you don't feel like you have to.
Yeah, well, I do want to echo my, appreciation for everybody's, civility on this issue. I understand that it's contentious in that back alleyway, and I'm all the more appreciative for Commissioner Bose's continued support. I also appreciate the comments that Commissioner Beard brought to the table as well. At a moment when there's so much power to block positive, developments for many people, too oftentimes that's weaponized undemocratically in the hands of a very small minority. And so I appreciate you bringing those comments to the table. Thanks again.
All right. All right, we're going to move to community, and then we'll come back to commissioners and we'll discuss the friendly amendments further when we come back around and accept or not, and then move to a vote. So if you are a community member and you would like to have your voice heard on this matter, you can go to the raise hand feature there at the little bottom of your Zoom icon and raise your virtual hand. You can come on camera and raise your hand, and we will call on you. And we'd ask that, reasonable time be had here. So anyone wish to give comment? Does anyone see anyone with their hand up? All right. Surprising. All right. Hearing and seeing none.
I'd like to make some comments, please.
Okay. Go ahead.
To turn on my video. Oh, here. Thank you.
There you go.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Thank you. Thanks very much for the opportunity to provide some comments to you. My name is Violanda Botet, and I'm here to request today that the ANC postpone the decision to adopt this pending resolution, which many neighbors on Ordway Street do not support. Also request that you revisit in its entirety the ANC's decision on March 2025 to support closure of the public alley behind 3500 Connecticut Avenue. By way of background, I've lived in Cleveland Park for over 30 years and have owned for more than 20 years my current home, which directly faces the public alley to be closed. And there are at least 5 reasons why this ANC should not act this evening on the proposed resolution. First, the public alley is just that, public land. Under DC law, there needs to be a good public purpose for closing the alley. Closing the public alley for the sole purpose of building a private luxury residential building is not a public purpose. It's for a private purpose. It serves the interest of one private developer who happens to live in the neighborhood. A mere promise to create a handful of new apartments at current market rates, if and when the developer deems it opportune to build, is not a concrete public benefit. Second, closing the public alley will have a negative impact on adjacent landowners and the broader Cleveland Park community. The ANC has not considered this in its deliberations. The alleyway network behind 3500 Connecticut Avenue serves the fire station. The alleyway network serves as a means for making deliveries to the numerous businesses located on the 3500 Connecticut Avenue strip. And the alleyway network serves as a pathway to the Cleveland Park Metro. Closing the alleyway, in effect, also eliminates 12 parking spaces now available to the 100 workers at 3500 Connecticut Avenue. That means less off-street parking for all of us. These issues should be considered as part of a transparent and considered ANC decision to close the public alley. Third, closing the public alley is premature, given that it's not clear that a residential building can be built in this cramped space. No feasibility on the ground has been conducted according to the developer. This is particularly important given that the area was a stone quarry, the parcel of land is next to an underground metro, and we know there are major utilities, including a large gas line, also running underneath. All those factors are red flags. So why close the public alley before we even know a building can be built there? Fourth, it's premature to close the public alley in light of the significant rezoning initiative underway in Cleveland Park and up Connecticut and Wisconsin avenues. If the public alley is closed, the value of the consolidated property could be higher than the value of the land as it currently stands. The developer would then be in a position to flip the property to another developer, profiting again from public land while providing no public benefit. It's inappropriate to tee up this space while the city is still in deliberations on the application of its rezoning initiative. And finally, 5, for the record here, there has been a lack of public consultations with adjacent neighbors on the closure of the public alley. The developer recently testified, and I heard this here tonight, that the project began in early 2024. The ANC voted on the alley closure 1 year later in 2025. During that time, there were no consultations with adjacent landowners on the proposed building as required. It was only in November 2025, almost 2 years after the developer started this initiative, that consultations began, and only at the request of the neighbors. City Council member Fruman introduced legislation March 2025 as well to close the public alley without any consultations with adjacent neighbors. And it was only in October 2025, 7 months later, that consultations with his office began, and again, only at our request. For residents of Cleveland Park who are watching to see how upzoning in Cleveland Park will work in the future, the closure of the Ordway Public Alley serves as a model or warning on how development decisions will be made. To close, it's premature to close the public alley and premature to adopt the pending resolution. Once the public alley is closed, the public will have no say in accessing that land or its future use or misuse forever. That public alleyway has been open since at least the 1910s, so it's a consequential land use decision that deserves consideration. Consistent with this, in October 2025, when the City Council first took up Councilmember Fruman's bill, the chair of the Committee of the Whole, Phil Mendelson, for many of the reasons I just cited, postponed the decision on the bill, citing the lack of a clear record to support the ANC's decision to endorse the public alleyway closure. But nothing in the resolution proposed under consideration today would mitigate against the points I just made. The ANC resolution is non-legally binding. It binds no one. It just seeks to give the illusion that the ANC is addressing some issues in an enforceable manner, but nothing could be further from the truth.
Okay, are you just about done? Because we've given you a lot of time right now.
I'm representing several, though. So
okay.
I
I'm
will
going to ask that respectfully you wrap it up.
I will. Thank you. I will. In light of the above, I urge you to revisit the ANC's decision in March 2025, endorsing the closure of the public alleyway. Postpone any decision on this pending resolution and provide a public and transparent record that takes fully into account the issues and concerns that I've raised here today before any decisions or actions are taken on this matter. Thank you very much, and I appreciate the time.
Okay, thank you. Joshua.
Hi, thank you for letting me speak. I appreciate it. And don't worry for reading about my email. I don't mind if you steal my thunder. It's not a big deal. Everyone can share the thunder. One thing I just want to point out here, though, is during Councilman Fruman's time when he was talking, he was saying, we're almost there. Almost got it. We've been negotiating. We almost nearly got it. Everyone's concerns are almost done. However, listening to Ms. Botet, and she said she represented a number of neighbors, is that it sounds like we're not almost there. And that, this has been negotiating for well over a year and a half. Like, I guess I will ask Councilman Fruman and, if you could bring this up to Chairman Mendelson, like, what will happen if the concerns aren't met by a few people? If 2, 3 people say no concerns are met, I don't care what you do, I'm going to be concerned about this. Is that just it? Can one person come up and say, I'm concerned, and that's it? It's done. It's over with? I guess my question would be, if this is a public space and the concern of the people in the alleyway are so intense, and this is going to destroy people's lives by closing this alleyway, I would recommend that the neighbors pitch in and buy that piece of land and prevent anyone else from building on it, rather than relying on ANCs and frankly kind of obscure rules around council usage of alleyways to prevent anyone else from being allowed to do anything. I hope you bring this up, Councilman Fruman, to Chairman Mendelson. I hope you think about this, and thank you for your time.
Do you want me to respond?
Yes, I actually do, Council Member Fruman. That would be helpful because I asked you the same question at the end of our last meeting. So I'd appreciate it.
Yeah, I think that what is important is that there be a back and forth and air what are the things that are on people's minds. It doesn't mean that everything that gets raised gets addressed. The core of it is to get to the heart of what are the concerns. And that is what is happening here. I think Violanda listed a lot of things. I I think I want to have a conversation with her. She had asked for me to meet with the neighbors again. Some of those things I honestly don't think are fair as issues. And so I think, but I want to have a respectful back and forth with her and the neighbors. We have gone through a couple of rounds of things where we've tried to figure out what are the core things that are on people's minds and how can they be addressed. And I really commend Jay for his work on this. I think that he has gotten at what are those core things. If at the end of the day, what has to be done is a genuine effort to be respectful and hear people through and get to the heart of the matter. But that doesn't mean that any single person has a veto. And so I think we are close to the end. I think I want to have, Violanda had asked for a meeting just with the neighbors. I'm happy to do that. But I think the key things that people raised to me when it first started have largely been addressed. And so let's work it through, but let's do it in a way where people are being respectful of each other. If you lived next to this, you would be sensitive about it. Let's be, let's acknowledge that. In terms of, is there a public purpose, which Violanda raised, a number of folks on the commission have made the point that adding housing is actually a very high priority for the city. So that is, and from the first time that I met with the neighbors, I was very clear. I support the idea of adding housing. I want to address reasonable concerns that you raise. And that's what the project is now. But to the question of can one or two people just say no? No, they have to have a strong basis for why that should be persuasive to anyone. And when Violanda said, Chairman Mendelson said this isn't ready for a vote, that's not really how it works. The way that it works is you have a hearing and then eventually you do a markup. And what Chairman Mendelson was looking for was a process to get at the ideas that had been raised and to get to more clarity about what the implications of the closing of the alley would be. And that was going to be a prerequisite before we got to a markup. On that, I think we are very close.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Bose, you had your hand up, but Bob had his hand up first. Do you want Bob to go first, and then is it okay if you go after?
Yeah, I don't want to jump the line. Bob, go ahead.
Okay, go ahead, Bob.
Thanks. I just wanted to chime in with support for the development of this lot. And I know there are reasons that why the project has shrunk, and I'll just say that's disappointing. A lot of us have worked a really long time to be able to produce more housing on our Connecticut Avenue Main Street. This is part of it. We're at the final stages of doing that rezoning, and that this particular lot, which can accommodate a lot more than 6 units, is only going to be 6 units. It's frankly disappointing. But it's not my property. So I guess I know I'm not really allowed to ask questions, but I'll throw this question out there. Where is we haven't heard from the applicant. What does he view this resolution and where things are at? I mean, is he supportive? Um, uh, and if so, I think you guys should vote for this resolution. I like Commissioner Paggett's friendly amendment. I don't understand this issue enough to say why this particular alley lot can't be developed on its own. Why does it need the alley closure? Because it sounds like the physical space of the alley that's being closed is actually not going to be built on. It's going to remain an accessible alley. So I'm not sure why we need the council to close the alley if you can just build on that lot, but whatever. I guess if I can ask a question, if anyone has an answer, Jay, Commissioner Bowes, or anyone else, is the applicant supportive of this?
Yeah, you can ask that question and Commissioner Bose can probably answer it for you.
Yeah, Bob, I've had a lot of discussions, as you can imagine, with the applicant. I have not shown him the text of this amendment, but I have largely kind of previewed, the requests that we were going to be making of council. He indicated to me that he understood the rationale for why we were making these requests and sounded generally in agreement. So I would say it's a roundabout way of saying yes, the applicant is supportive of the text.
Thanks.
Great. Thank you.
And while I have the floor, I do want to say, thank you to Joshua and Bob and Violanda for their comments. I do want to just put out for the record, I know there was a comment that there's been a lack of, public consultations on this. I have to say I respectfully disagree with that characterization. I've spent a lot of time over the last few months meeting with people individually for coffee, at their homes. Violanda and I spent several hours a couple weekends ago talking through all of this. There have been group conversations at the library. So, while I don't want to, get into relitigating what was said or done or not done at the beginning of 2025 or in 2024, the neighbors got our attention when they got our attention, and since then we have been listening and we have been engaging. So I just respectfully, I don't agree with the characterization that we haven't been consulting with the neighbors.
I'd also note that all of our meetings on this topic have been public with the public at large, whereas they request private meetings, including now private meetings that exclude the owner and the advisory neighborhood commissioner. So if anybody is not being transparent, facts are facts. All right. Anybody else in the public wish to comment? Otherwise, we're going to go back to ANC commissioners here for.
Can I chime in one more time?
Sure.
Because nice to see everybody. And Bob, one of the things that you referred to is that the project has shrunk. And there could be some kind of a sense that the project has shrunk because of this process, because of the council deliberations about the alley closing. And I honestly don't think that that is the case. I think that part of what happened is the applicant looked at the feasibility of doing the things that he wanted to do, looked at the feasibility of building the underground garage, and concluded that the better approach was to do the pedestal approach. That's not driven by any of these other things, but it's fortuitous for the other issues that were on people's minds, but it's not caused by that. One of the things that two things that the applicant did that I think are probably directly responsive to the concerns that the neighbors raised was looked at kind of insetting the top floor as a way of affecting the relationship of the massing to the nearby folks. That's good that he did that, but it doesn't really change the delivery of housing. The other thing that he did, and it concerned me, was that he lowered it a little, and I asked about this at the last meeting, and by affecting ceiling heights. But part of what he said was that there was a way that it could still have very generous ceilings, and he could lower it. And so there are some things that he has done in response, and I think they should be applauded, but they are not things that have led to a smaller project. And there is, I get the frustration how long things take, but I've been involved in a lot of different projects over the years and worked them through and gotten them done. And this can be like that. We got the East Campus at American University built, working through with neighbors. We got the law school at Tenley Circle. The law school moved from Massachusetts Avenue to Tenley Circle, and we did it with bringing along the neighbors. We got Babe's Billiards built without any parking, and we did that was a process, and we got there. We got a second story put on the Friendship Animal Hospital, getting past a, a, a 15-year feud with the neighbor and got it done. And we got the Lisner home built, which is the first housing production trust fund project in Ward 3 ever, and with the support of the neighbors. We can get there working through this. Nobody has a veto, but everybody should be heard, and we can get there. And I'm very, very grateful to the role that Jay has played in trying to work this through and get there. Thank you.
All right. John.
Hey, just I know this meeting's been running for a while, and I want to respect my this time, but I do want to just chime in, just to make a couple statements. The first is that
I can't hear
Jay,
John.
Yeah, if you can lean into the microphone a bit, it might help.
yeah, hold on. Let me just. I'm on an earbud.
Much better.
Bluetooth issues. All right. So I do want to thank Jay. He's been very considerate and considered in his meetings with us, and the amount of time that he's spent kind of doing one-on-ones and also coordinated group and Zoom calls. Thank you so much, Jay. I personally really appreciate you soliciting the input from not just the homeowners, but the residents of the properties that are impacted. But I do want to add an amendment to that, which is that the folks who participated also spent a good amount of time just attending. And so for the residents who are concerned about this, Violanda does not speak just for herself. Many of her concerns resonate and are repeated by a lot of other people as well. So just take that into account, please. And also, just in terms of general tone, this is not a case where any individuals are doing the NIMBY approach and are trying to stonewall or block. When you peel the layers back, there are, I think, some valid concerns about not just traffic, but parking and things like that, many of which will probably and definitely come up in subsequent development discussions and planning. But just please don't pigeonhole these concerns as something which is just one person or a very small group of people trying to block progress. So that's it. That's my piece. So
Great, thank you. All right, anyone else? Okay.
Can I ask that I be allowed to go? Do you need me for more of this?
We're gonna keep you here forever. Yeah, you can go. And thank you again for your time.
Thank you very much. I'm not trying to be rude, but it's been a very long day, and tomorrow's another one. Thanks.
And thank you again
Thank
for
you,
your
Councilmember.
work with trying to move this forward. Appreciate it.
All right. Thank you very much.
Have a good night. All right. All right. So now we're going to go to commissioner discussion. And I think the first matter we want to take care of here is Jay, if you want to accept those amendments as friendly or say they're not friendly, and then you can ask that they be voted on by the full commission. The full votes on the resolution and can, if they disagree with the amendments, can disagree with the amendments in that.
Got it. Well, and first I do want to just say thank you to John for that feedback. And the point is well taken. But yeah, I'll take the amendments as friendly, and we can go ahead and move forward.
All right. Any further discussion from commissioners on this before we move to a vote? All right. Then the vote is on the resolution in support of the alley closures on Square 2068 as moved and amended. All those in favor? We're gonna do a roll call vote on this one, okay? So 3C01.
Yes.
3C02.
Yes.
3CO3 is yes. 3CO4.
Yes.
3CO5.
Yes.
3CO6.
Surprisingly, yes.
3CO7.
Yes, please.
3CO8.
3CO8 is no.
All right. The resolution passes with a vote of 7-1-0. Thank you all, and thank you again, Commissioner Bose, for your ridiculous amount of time working on this. It's a lot, and it's very thoughtful consideration. Appreciate it. All right.
Chair Pagets, could I say something? All right. Yeah, I just want to say I had wanted to vote for this resolution. I appreciate all the work that Commissioner Bose has done. But as I indicated earlier, I think that the so-called friendly amendments, the two whereas clauses, do disrespect the public process and the neighbors. And in particular, I also, can't support a resolution that has the last clause in it. I know this has come up before, but for the reasons I said, it's, on a from a legal standpoint, it doesn't make sense. And it would be interesting to see what the Office of OANC's view on it as well. So if those hadn't been in there, I would be voting in a different place.
All right. Noted. Thank you. All right, we're going to move on to our next agenda item, which is discussion of and vote on a settlement agreement regarding ABCA, which is the Alcoholic Beverage and Cannabis Administration application, ABRA-134075 for a new medical cannabis retailer license to be located at 2653 Connecticut Avenue. Commissioner Littauer, would you like to brief on this? You do not need to read the whole settlement agreement because I'm going to go ahead and just put that in the chat. It was noticed with our meeting, so hopefully if folks were interested in reading it in detail, they were able to do so at that time. So please make your highlights in your presentation and make a motion.
Yes, thank you very much. And thank you so much to everybody who has engaged on this issue. Like Chairperson Paget said, the settlement agreement resolution is going in the chat if you have not gotten the chance to review. But I'm going to speak with some velocity on how we got there and try to add some plain English that's not the legalese that's in the Google Doc to share a little bit about what's in it. So Third Eye Crew is the proposed medical cannabis dispensary for 2653 Connecticut Ave. That's the retail space that's currently occupied by Petite Monde Coffee Shop in Woodley Park. Third Eye Crew is planning to operate as a coffee shop and cafe as well, while also allowing for the private distribution of medical cannabis and cannabis-derived products. So not just marijuana, but also maybe things like infused creamers and honeys and other types of confectionaries. This proposed business was the subject of a pretty considerable amount of community concern, which we submitted comments in protest to be considered as a part of the APCA protest hearing back in this upcoming February. APCA hosted a hearing earlier this month as a roll call to determine whether or not the protesters had sufficient grounds. Many of the protest comments were dismissed as not having standing to be included in the upcoming hearing in February. And I would be glad to go into detail about that another time if you have questions about that. However, the door was left open for a settlement agreement to be negotiated between ANC3C and the business owners to try to find some common ground ahead of the hearing in February. So the attached resolution was drafted in consideration of the many concerns mentioned in conversations with neighbors. It was drafted with great respect and heavy weight from the two discussions and opportunities from the Committee of Planning, Zoning, Housing, and Economic Development. Lots of conversations with the business owners and their neighbors who had probably the most considerable grounds that eventually were dismissed for protest, which was the neighbors at Stanford and Washington. The settlement agreement, in plain English, it does not allow for smoking or the use of any of their cannabis products outside of their building. It doesn't allow use of cannabis to the front of their building, nor in the back alley. The original proposal had included a request for a back patio with outdoor access for cannabis use. The settlement agreement that I have drafted, if the business agrees, does not allow for their customers to use the back alley, nor for the business to build in the alleyway for 12 months following their opening day. And if they are ever to pursue alley access, they have to also pursue ANC3C approval. Other things that are included, it does not allow for any images of marijuana or cannabis products on the public-facing streetscape. No neon lights, no light projections on the sidewalk, no flashing lights or anything like that that may be stereotypical of uh, dispensaries across town. This is operating as an in-house medical distribution center, and when it's not doing that, it's just a normal coffee shop. The settlement agreement also recommunicates that the business will abide by really strict enforcement of APCA regulations and all local cannabis and public safety laws. Um, so that being said, I just want to thank everyone who has offered their insight into this issue. I also want to acknowledge that the owner and the neighbor, both Adrian from Stanford and Washington and Corey from Third Eye Crew, they've both been incredibly gracious and agreeable throughout this entire process. And I just want to say, Corey, the owner, he's been very receptive to feedback from all parties. And I just really appreciate his willingness to voluntarily enter these negotiations at all. So that is what is inside the settlement agreement. It is in the chat for your review, and I'm happy to take any questions you may have. Thanks.
So you're moving the settlement agreement?
That is correct. I'm moving a vote to pass the settlement agreement. And what this does is it means that we submit it to the business owners for them to either say yes or no. If they say no, they will go to the protest hearing in February, and they may get, awarded their business without any community stipulations. So
Okay.
that is why I'm putting forward this.
It's the risk that they take. They could also be totally, just denied. Is there a second?
Second.
All right. So we're going to go to commissioners for discussion first and then open it up to the community. Commissioner Prinzo.
Yeah, thank you. I have just one friendly amendment on what page is this? 3 at the bottom. Notice an opportunity to cure. I understand why you put Commissioner Letare, I understand why you put your email address here. I just think for future, it might be better to say also maybe add or just substitute with the 3C, because like as we saw when um Zach left, like we didn't have access to the 3C05 email address. So if for whatever reason, 27 years when you decide to retire from the ANC, the seat goes vacant, I think it would just be better if we had it in a spot where all the commissioners can see it, if that makes sense.
I agree. I accept that as friendly to change it from 3C01 at anc.dc to 3C at anc.dc.gov.
Awesome.
Yeah, I was going to like in the, I don't want to call it errors and omissions, but in the minor fixing of things, just add that to it. Because I think it also needs to be signed by the chair, and Commissioner Laytower can sign it as well. And I was also going to add, because we're going to do a roll call vote on this one too, the count, because sometimes they ask for the count of the actual vote and not a voice vote on these things. So
Great.
that's what we're going to do on the vote on this one. But any further discussion? All right, members of the community, you can raise your virtual hand or come on camera and raise your hand. And we will call on you. Bob Ward.
Yeah, I just think you guys did a great job on this. And from the Planning and Zoning Committee meeting, I agree with Commissioner Littauer. Corey, the owner, was um, uh, very cooperative, and I think it's a great agreement. So Thanks.
Thank you, Bob.
All right, thank you. Anyone else from the community wish to comment on this at this time? I also want to thank Commissioner Littauer for his work on this and also acknowledge Corey and his ability to take time, answer questions, and be very proactive in his mitigations to the concerns of the community that were brought up at the meeting. He was very thorough in his responses, and I think that was very helpful in getting to a place. So there's that last call for comments and questions. Otherwise, we will move to a vote. Commissioner Bose.
Thank you, Chair Pagets, and also want to echo the sentiment of thanking Commissioner Littauer for the great work he's done on this. I guess I just have a process question. What happens if the business doesn't agree to this settlement agreement? Just process-wise, what's the next step?
I can take that one. The next step is that there's going to be a protest hearing at the end of February, which I believe is February 25th or 26th. I'd have to pull up my calendar to double check. But if they do not agree to this settlement agreement, it will go to the protest hearing, in which it is likely that ABCA will permit their business as is, which includes outdoor patio and all the like. The only grounds that anyone has any ability to protest on is pedestrian safety, which is not something that will be covered by, a protest to the back alley.
Got it. Thank you.
Adam? Commissioner Prinzo, sorry.
Thank you. I just want to mention, because I feel like it does get a little lost when we're talking about this, is that the ANC has no legal authority to say we don't want this to be in our neighborhood and deny the permits, because that's just not what we're tasked with. We're tasked with reviewing the application and making suggestions, but at the end of the day, it's like I feel like we got a lot of mixed reaction because a lot of people felt like we did a turnaround and did a settlement agreement, but we don't have the authority to just say no, and that authority falls on ABCA, the ABCA board. So this is like a backup plan, or essentially, or a plan B in the event that, the pedestrian or whatever. I don't know what we protested on, to be completely honest with you, but I do think that it does get lost in translation that we do not have the ability to say thank you for coming, but no.
That's correct. Yes, signing this agreement is completely voluntary by the business owner. They could very well say no and move straight to the ABCA protest hearing and receive their application granted as is.
Yeah, I think it's a bit challenging. Folks feel like that word protest means that you can just say flat out no. So thank you, Commissioners Littauer and Prinzo, for pointing that out, because this is a regulated and legal business operation in the District of Columbia and has been say like 2008. So it's just, yeah, it's challenging, but I'm glad that again the owner has agreed to these terms, and hopefully we'll sign this agreement since Commissioner Littauer has been communicative with him.
I have every belief to anticipate they will sign this agreement. Yes.
Right. All right. Any other comments on this? All right, we're gonna move to a roll call vote. We're gonna start with 3C08.
I vote in favor.
Okay. 3C07.
Support.
3C06.
Yes.
3C05.
Yes.
3C04.
Yes.
3C03. Yes. 3C02.
Yes.
3C01.
Yes.
All right, it passes 8-0 on a roll call vote. All right, thank you all, and also thank the community for your input on this as well, to getting this to a place. All righty. I am on the wrong document, so give me a brief second. All right, moving on to our next item, which is discussion and vote on comments regarding 34th Street, Reno Road, Northwest traffic issues. Commissioner Prinzo?
Yes.
Okay. I didn't know if you had if Commissioner Nash was a co-sponsor or
If he would like to join, he's more than welcome. I wrote this because it was in the transportation committee, but since it is his SMD, I will ask him as soon as I'm done moving it if he would like to co-introduce it with me. Um, I am moving a letter to the director of DDOT, Sharon Kirschbaum, asking for a response to a whole bunch of things. Just for background, in early December, a child was struck on Reno and Porter Street. Yes, on their way to school. The driver did not stop. The child had the right of way at a signalized pedestrian crossing at that intersection, and I think I said the driver did not stop. Um, this is just a latest example of the issues that we've been seeing on that road. So I went back into our website and dug up a resolution from 2023, October 23rd to be exact, where former Commissioner Siddiqui and Commissioner Nash perfectly used many citations to express our frustration with how unsafe the Reno Road is. In March of 2024, that was echoed by ANC3E, and also added some intersections in their ANC where they feel there are some issues. And in September of 2025, ANC3F also took up a similar thing. However, they also went a step further and made a direct expense for see-me pedestrian flags on the intersection of Reno and Warren Street after a child was struck going to school at that intersection. So what this letter does is it asks DDOT for their when they expect to give us an answer to our October 23rd, 2023 request, which I will say is also outside the 90 days that they are statutorily have to answer us on. Any traffic studies or crash data for Reno Road since that time, planned any temporary signal crossings, right on red intersections, or any sort of traffic calming measures that they're planning on taking either permanently or temporarily. And lastly, a timeline for implementation or next steps. So I will move that.
is there a second?
Second, and I'm happy to co-sponsor it, and I thank Adam for his work on this.
Awesome.
As he points out, this has been a strong concern of the community, not just going back to 2023, but actually going back a number of years before. And we're not the first ANC to wrestle with safety issues along Reno Road and south of Rodman Street, known as 34th Street. And this is a street, of course. It's a residential street. It has no commercial buildings on it. It has some institutional buildings like schools and preschools. So it's paramount that safety issues be addressed. It not only touches part of the district that I represent, but also the district is as well, just to the east, where Peter has just assumed the role of commissioner, and up and down through various ANCs. It's a street where people live, where they transit, where kids walk, where people ride bikes, and DDOT has to put emphasis on it. So happy to co-sponsor this letter, and again want to thank Adam for his work on this.
Thank you. I do want to just mention in my brief going through our ANC archives, the first ANC resolution that I saw on this, I think, was in 2021. So it's been an issue that this ANC in specific has been trying to tackle for a while. And I will note that ANC3A and 3F, and as well as me from 3C, are looking to draft some sort of joint letter that we hope to put on our agenda in February. This letter was more of a 3C related just because of the incident that occurred on Porter and Reno Road, but just a joint letter from those three ANCs saying we would like an answer on this as soon as possible.
Great, thank you. Any other commissioners discussion? I just also want to thank Commissioner Prinzo and Commissioner Nash. You've been working on this forever too. Um, for your continued efforts on this stretch. I also want to note that the Transportation Committee meeting where this was discussed was interesting in that there were two other items on the agenda where folks around the Safe Routes to School program were trying to get infrastructure installations regarding the Safe Routes to School program removed. I just want to note that I feel like DDOT is challenged in hearing we want the things here when they put the thing over there, and now those people are up in arms with, wanting to have that removed. We all know that the folks that work at DDOT are also humans, with feelings, and I think that when I don't think that we're considering supporting removing any of those installations, possibly improving them, but not removing them. I just want to note that, um, and where they might have a hesitation from time to time in particular neighborhoods with things, to be honest. And recognize that fear. But doesn't mean we shouldn't push forward with this. Any other commissioners, any other community members wish to weigh in on this topic here? You can raise your virtual hand, come on camera and raise your real hand. Okay. Hearing and seeing none, I will move to take a vote on ANC3C comments regarding 31st Street / Reno Road Northwest traffic issues. All those in favor of the comments, please raise your hand or say aye. All right, I'm seeing all 8 hands are up, so that passes 8 to 0 to 0. All right, thanks again. We will now move on to the treasurer's report. Commissioner Kripke.
Okay, really there's not much to report. I have sent a report to the commissioners, which with your agreement will be attached to the minutes that lays out what we have in the bank. In the last month, we have paid out the grant to the Hardy PTO that we approved. They haven't cashed it yet. We did receive our funding allocation from the city at the end of December, so we're fully on track for our budget, and that's really it. So that's the monthly report. I've also produced a quarterly report, which basically is the same information, just going back a couple months. We didn't have a very active quarter, um, but all the information is in the quarterly report. Should I go over it here? It's in your inbox.
Yeah,
Sorry, go ahead.
briefly, if you want to hit the highlights.
Highlights are that we received our district allotments. We made I think it's one grant to the Hardy PTO of $2,400. We spent out for our website $150, and that's really it for the last quarter. And that's what's in the quarterly financial report. and we need to approve that in this meeting by a vote, and then we need to sign it off and file it with the OANC in order to get our next funding allocation. So that's where we're at.
Okay, so you're moving the quarterly financial report.
Yes, I'd like to move to approve the quarterly financial report. Well, I do want to leave room for questions or concerns that anybody wants to raise, but that's our situation.
Second.
Second, are there questions or concerns about the quarterly financial report? Nope. Anyone in the community want to weigh in on the quarterly financial report? No. Okay. We'll move to a vote. All those in favor of approving the Q1 25 quarterly financial report, raise your hand or say aye. All right, I'm seeing all 8 hands again, so that's 8 to 0 to 0. That quarterly financial report is approved, and we'll pass it around for signatures. I do think we do need the December minutes though to be done with it, but we'll approve those next month. Okay. Moving on now to our amended agenda items of announcements. I'm going to ask if anybody has single member district announcements. Raise your hand or speak up. All right, hearing and seeing none, we'll move on to committee reports. Since we covered a number of things that were discussed in our committees, in voting on, chairs, co-chairs, and the meeting dates, I'm going to ask that if anybody has a committee report, you raise your hand and speak up. Otherwise, people can look for future agendas for those committees. Commissioner Kripke. Oh, yeah, I actually did hope that you were going to mention grants.
Yes. Yeah, I just want to note that we have probably 2 and possibly 3 grants to consider. So we are planning to have a grants committee meeting on the 27th, which is a week from today. So I wanted to make sure to notice it as soon as possible. And public is welcome, of course. We'll hear short presentations on the grants. One of them has been reviewed and approved by OANC. The other has not yet. And there's a third one that may be coming in, which won't have OANC approval yet, but we could at least consider it. So it'll be exciting. Do come. Okay, that's it for grants.
I'm excited. Yeah, if you can just send me the items to include on the agenda, we'll get the Zoom link and post it by tomorrow latest.
Okay. Thanks.
Great. Thank you. It's very exciting. Any other committees wish to report out? Commissioner Prinzo.
Public safety will probably have a meeting that second Thursday in February. We will have a meeting, sorry, but we will have an agenda shortly.
Super, thank you. Any other committees? Commissioner Kripke.
Very briefly, on the Environmental Justice Committee, we did have a meeting in December on trees, street trees, and landscaping, which was pretty good. And I have some notes, and there's a recording for anybody who's interested. There are some action points that come out of it that I'll probably bring back to the ANC in the short order. And we are in the early stages of thinking about Earth Day 2026 with some ideas. And so I may circulate among the commission some ideas that we have for Earth Day 2026 that we could organize. And so keep your eyes out for that.
Sorry, I want to send everybody this link because you reminded me of events. That's not.
Is it my favorite time of year, Commissioner Paggets?
Well, first of all, possibly because there's 2 favorite times of year you have. I'm part of the planning committee that produces Transpo Bingo, which is a game challenging how you experience and advocate for public and active transit, and we gamify, if you will, with bingo. Transportation, and the board will drop, I think it's February 5th. We are really lucky, thankful, all the things, to have a number of sponsors. The sponsorship's free, by the way, of this game that are Ward 3, especially Cleveland Park, Woodley Park focus, because somebody needed to get sponsors, and guess who she knows a lot of people in the area of. And it's a really cool game. We host different events with it, and I know Commissioner Miles offered to help plan one, hopefully in 3C, Ward 3, whatever, but it gets people out and engaged with others in the community in just a fun, like lighthearted way. There are prizes associated with the competition. 3C participated as a team one year and we won.
We're a defending champion.
Yeah. And it's a really fun and engaging way, and anybody can participate from all ages, places, all the things. We actually have, Woodley Park, Cleveland Park Villages sponsoring this year too, which they're hopefully going to sign on to our Sidewalk Palooza event, which is kind of brought to you by a lot of the same people, where we go around putting in 311 requests. And I have historically done a full 3C tour, and you can watch our path with the heat map of 311 requests as we like literally go along throughout the entire advisory neighborhood commission. So both these events are really fun. And I think, we're hoping as the ANC to promote participation in these, just to get more engagement in different spaces other than these Zoom meetings, which, while riveting, aren't really nearly as fun as the competition of Transpo Bingo. Uh, I'm also hoping, we get a ton of participation from Cleveland Park and Woodley Park this year too. So that's my plug, which kind of covers a number of committees, I suppose, and more than my single member district. District Bridges is sponsored too. Yeah, it's really just fun. All right. So more to come on that. Next up, any last call for committee reports? All right, we'll move on to mayor updates. Owen, I saw your hand up earlier. I apologize if you missed when we changed the agenda at the beginning of the meeting, and you've been sitting here, I'm sure, riveted. So you're up. Go ahead.
No problem. I wish we had some more people left because my main announcement is about the snow coming up. Hi, my name is William Owen Cox. I'm the Ward 3 liaison for the mayor's office. Just one announcement is that this weekend we're going to get some snow in the district, and I'm here to plug the Snow Team Heroes. It's a volunteer network that folks can sign up for in order to help their neighbors who may not be able to shovel their sidewalks, walkways, and help with snow mitigation and de-icing so that everyone in the neighborhood can move around safely and hopefully get the snow to leave sooner rather than later. I can share a link in the chat. I've also posted on all of the neighborhood listservs. If you're interested in signing up as a senior, maybe who needs help with shoveling, you can call 311. They can transfer you to the Snow Team Heroes to get on a list that if they can find a volunteer in your neighborhood, they'll set you up with them so that they can come by and help shovel your walkway and make sure you can get around safely. And that's it for me, unless there's any questions.
Yeah, with the snow team response, like, has there been any work to like prioritize? I know this happens at the Metropolitan Branch Trail, where nobody has responsibility for that walkway by the metro there. This happens to us every single time it snows with the human bridge, the Connecticut Avenue Bridge, Klingle Valley Bridge, choose your name of bridge adventure over here. That nobody clears the sidewalk, it ices over, and we have a very large number of seniors that go up from this part of Woodley Park to Cleveland Park to go to the post office, go to the grocery store, go to the things. And then by the time folks get around to removing the ice, which takes weeks, it's like solid and hard to remove. Is there like been any work on like we need to get to these places sooner than later? Because I know you personally shoveling that with Kendall last year.
Yes. So as it's volunteer based, it's what they do, if I recall correctly, is that they try and connect residents who've signed up for the program to have help with shoveling within a 3 block radius to try and get folks connected so that they don't have to go across the ward to help out a neighbor with shoveling. We'll do our best, as we do every year, to get everything that needs to be shoveled and cleared. And of course, we're going to try and prioritize those areas which need to be. But with this program, this is more a program for residential neighborhoods and folks who just want to volunteer their time. It's not a part of us, like part of the city.
Yeah, no, I agree with that, but it just brought up the questioning of the larger issue of this is a giant public sidewalk space that nobody's apparently responsible for, but yet the public largely uses. And having had issues every year in the past getting it shoveled or salted, like we don't seem to be learning from experiences and making fundamental improvements on that. So I
Well,
guess
that's something that, well, based on the past experience that Kendall and I had, I think that, and especially with our feedback we gave at the time, I think that we can definitely flag that for city services as well, and give them, on the ground feedback to say this is why this is a critical issue, especially since as a bridge it's going to freeze faster than other places. So that's something that I can definitely flag up.
that I would really
privilege.
appreciate you doing that in advance. Commissioner
Mhm.
Littau.
Yes, thanks so much for sharing all these thoughts. Just as a point of personal privilege, Kendall Gibson from the Mayor's Office of Community Relations reached out to me. I will take the lead on shoveling out the human trail this weekend, and I echo Chairperson Baggett's hope to have this included as part of city services moving forward. But I'm assembling a team, so we'll be out there. Thanks. Bye.
Super, thank you. Commissioner Beard. Oh, you're on mute.
Sorry, Mr. Cox, I would like to add 2 areas to your list of concern. Honestly, getting when it snows, that's like the most action I get as an ANC. I get a lot of emails about it. There are 2 areas, one along Connecticut Avenue on the 3600 block. In between 2 apartment buildings, there's a place where Rock Creek Park comes up to the street. That never gets shoveled. And then also along the sidewalk on Connecticut Avenue next to the old atomic clock site. So just north of Tilden. That's also a National Park Service area and it never gets shoveled. It's a very long sidewalk that I could not do on my own.
Well, so if it is NPS land, NPS is responsible for taking care of it, but
But
I
they do
can,
not.
right. I can reach out to our NPS contact to flag that for them, but unfortunately we have no control over NPS, so we'll urge them as much as we can.
Please do, because last year I spent a lot of time urging them as well.
Well, hopefully, if everyone urges them, maybe they'll get to it. I hope,
Not
but
likely. But Commissioner Beard, good news. You can reach out to the guy from the National Guard who has offered the National Guard troops help
True.
with National Park Service land. So perhaps they can be put to a more useful task of,
Yeah, it seems like they need something to do other than protecting trash cans.
or leaning on walls.
Sure.
All right. Any other we're going next to Council Member Freeman's office announcements.
Hey
Trisha,
everyone.
thanks
Yeah,
for hanging out with us for so long too. Sorry about that.
of course. I do have a couple of updates for you all today. So this morning, Councilmember Donnie Crawford was sworn in as the newest member of the DC Council, filling the at-large seat vacated by former Councilmember Kenyon McDuffie. The former councilmember served as chair of the Committee on Business and Economic Development, and the agencies under the purview of that committee have now been reorganized. So in addition to retaining the agencies under the Committee on Human Services, Councilmember Fruman also now has oversight of the Deputy Mayor for Planning and Economic Development and the Office of Lottery and Gaming. Next, please save the date for our next workday in the ward in Chevy Chase this Thursday, January 22nd at Bread and Chocolate. These monthly events are an opportunity to connect directly with Ward 3 residents and with the Ward 3 Council office. Councilmember Freeman will be present in the morning to chat with residents between 8 a.m. and 10 a.m. This time is reserved for office hour style drop-in visits where you can share your questions, ideas, or concerns. Ward 3 Council office staff members and district agencies will also be present at scheduled times to meet with residents. So whether you're navigating a city service issue, want to discuss policy, or simply want to say hello, this is a great opportunity to connect. And you can find more info and the full schedule on the event page on our website. Next, Councilmember Freeman will host his annual budget listening session on Saturday, January 31st at 10 a.m. This is a community forum open to Ward 3 residents to discuss priorities regarding the upcoming fiscal year. It will be virtual and held on Zoom, and you can register to attend online on our website. If you're unable to attend, you can email us your budget priorities at freemanoffice@dccouncil.gov, or if you prefer, you can also give our office a call. And lastly, Councilmember Freeman's next newsletter goes out this Thursday, January 22nd. It will include legislative and committee updates. It'll talk about how residents can engage in the upcoming performance oversight and budget processes, as well as district updates and community events. And you can sign up for the newsletter at mattfreemanward3.com. And that is all I have.
Super. Thank you. And 3C will probably be taking up a number of resolutions or letters. We prefer letters now regarding what our community would like to prioritize in the budget. If you could remind me, under the DEMPED Council agency list, the Office of Zoning and the Office of Planning is still under the Committee of the Whole, correct? And not that agency cluster?
That's correct.
Okay. Just wanted to confirm that it's accurate because it makes sense the other way, but whatever. Okay, any questions for Trisha and Councilmember Freeman's office? That includes from commissioners or the community, by the way. Okay. Hearing and seeing none, and we really appreciate him joining and spending a significant amount of time with us on the alley closure matter. So again, thank you all. I'm sure you guys all have work to do on that. Okay, cool. Any other community organizations or agencies here to update us on anything?
Commissioner Paggets.
Yes.
I see Kate is here from Woodley Park Main Streets.
Okay.
Sorry
Hi.
for going so long tonight. We usually are pretty
Wow,
quick.
this is quite a trial by fire. Yeah, we probably won't be here after 9 o'clock in the future, just to set some expectations.
We usually are
So
not here after 9 o'clock either.
my name is Kate Dean, and I am the executive director of Glover Park Alliance. We are the organization that now oversees grants for Glover Park Main Street and for Woodley Park Main Street. We are thrilled to be here. It's nice to meet you all. I'm sorry it's so late. I've run out of steam. We also had a very, very long day, and a couple of them in the future. We have really good news in that we finally received our funding today. We have been operating for the last 3 months without it, regardless. I don't know if she's still on, but we have had an excellent transition host in Sherry Lester, who has been on the ground in the corridor nearly daily, pounding the pavement. I myself have been there if you've seen me roaming around or having coffee at one of the very excellent cafes, hanging out with the business owners. We're really just trying to get to know everybody while we kick off a process of hiring a staff member. I cannot tell you at this point whether that staff member will be for you in Woodley or for Glover Park because we are waiting to see who walks through our door. It is not a senior role, it is a program manager position. So we will keep you updated and certainly we'll work as a team. So you'll always have me, you'll have whoever works with us, and you'll have boards, advisory committees, that whole structure going forward. I don't want to scoop Trisha, but there is a tiny little bit of news you can put on your calendar. I think the next workday in the ward will be in Woodley Park in February on the 26th. And we'll be out with the businesses, and you can come and see the council member or his staff. You can visit Trisha in person. And a lot of agencies will also co-locate there for the day. So that is coming up. We're going to have a couple of events coming up. We're going to do a Books and Blossoms event in March with a pop-up bookstore and a bunch of like kid stuff and crafting and all kinds of fun stuff just to get people and foot traffic out to the corridor. We're also going to do a community cleanup. I think the date of that is the 21st of March. We're going to ask for everybody's assistance. We'll give you a great t-shirt and a pizza party afterwards. So we really want to start engaging with the residents in addition to the business owners. We want to get to know everybody. It's going to take us a little time. It's been a rough start, if you will. It's been a little bit of a bumpy transition, but now that we're partially funded, we're really looking forward to moving forward. So feel free to ask us anything, but we're really at the very beginning of this.
Thank you. And 3C has historically been very supportive to the Main Streets programs and like the partnership and engagement, giving grants for certain things. I love a good cleanup. There's nothing like filling up a bag full of litter for some reason. It's weird. One question I had, because I know a number of commissioners here brought this up before, when Main Streets programs hire program directors, is there the ability to preference folks for those positions that live within those particular Main Streets neighborhoods or like adjacent neighborhoods? Like, because, well, at least in my opinion, I'm not going to speak for the other commissioners who have also voiced a similar opinion or the same opinion. In those roles, we just think it's like better if the person lives in the place where they're doing the programming.
So again, I can't tell you at this point whether the person that we end up hiring is going to serve Glover Park or Woodley Park. We're going to see who comes through the door. Also, they're an employee of a 501(c)(3). They're not a public employee. It will be a fair and open process, so it will not have any determination as to where the person lives, as to how they'll be hired, of course, but certainly having working knowledge of whatever area that is will probably come in handy. Um, so our office is not in Woodley Park. We have a physical office, and that person will be working physically out of that office throughout the week as well. So they'll be on the corridor, but they have an office that they'll be at.
Where's the office at?
at 2201 Wisconsin Ave Northwest.
Okay, so like close. You're not like operating out of like Chinatown, right?
No.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't think it was highly like possible, but it's just something that would be like nice in these programs to do from experience. All right, anybody else have questions? And also welcome and thank you. And I'm sorry we never go this late. Honestly, we just had a lot going on. First meeting of the year, just a lot. All right. Thank you again. Look forward to meeting, participating, all the things. Anybody else? Community organizations? Anybody else have anything for the good of the order here? All right, it's the last item on the agenda.
Motion to vacate, not vacate, to adjourn. Sorry, it's been a day.
Second.
All right, cool. Sorry, Commissioner Miles, that you got trialed by fire here. Have a good night, everyone, and see you around. Thank you.